So for anyone who knows me, I'm a bit obsessed with my own health and fitness. Now, I'm just really only over the past year starting to realize why I've always been so obsessed with my health and fitness. It has something to do with control. For a long time, I have really monitored everything that goes in my body. I've been obsessed with exercise. If you know me, you know that I cannot sit still for the life of me. It's why I can't watch TV. It's why I can't go to the movies. I always have to be out and about doing something. And so my health is really important to me. I'm still working on it. And I'm really trying to figure out how to have a better, healthier relationship with exercise, with nutrition, with sleep. I thought I was healthy, but I thought I was so healthy to the point that it was unhealthy. And so I'm now figuring out how to correct that. And health and wellness is a subject that's very important to me. And it's very important to all of us who are young. And as we are getting older, it's only going to become more and more important for us. And so with that, I want to have a conversation that I can learn a lot from and that all of you can learn a lot from with an expert, Dr. Sonayna Chandran, joining us all the way from London, United Kingdom. Sonayna, you have a online health coaching business where you have your clients and you advise them basically on just how to live a healthier, happier, well-rounded life, whether that is through diet, exercise, sleep, checking in with yourself. It's an awesome business that you've been building for yourself over the past few years. You do it online so you can work with people from all around the world. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting you several times this summer in Las Vegas, where you gave me some great advice at 2 a.m. And then in London, I had the pleasure of getting together with you and your husband, who is a friend of mine because he is a fan of the show that I work on through Spotify. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show today to talk about a bunch of really important things. So Sonayna, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And likewise to yourself. You pronounced my name absolutely perfectly. So well done there. And it's been really great getting to know you. I think, seeing you twice over the last month has been really good, both in Vegas and the UK.
My listeners are already freaking out because we Americans are suckers for a good British accent. So I could listen to it all day.
I hope I do it justice.
You're doing great. So there's a bunch of different areas I want to go. I kind of want to talk about the 3 pillars of health, which are sleep, exercise, and nutrition. But before we get there, I want to just kind of dive into your journey a little bit. Why did you decide to get into this space? Because you are a dentist by day. That's what you went to school for. And you have since cut back on your hours there and your commitment there to really launch and get into and develop this business online for yourself. So what inspired you to do this?
Sure. So like yourself, I would say I've always been into health and fitness. It doesn't mean I've always been able to get it right, though. So even from a young age, 15, 16 years old, I've always wanted to, get into shape, tone up, understand how to exercise better, eat well, and always probably try to follow the latest trend that was out there. So whether it was going to your legs, bums and tums classes, your HIIT classes, cutting out sugar, cutting out carbs, which really I was only successful for about a day or 2 days, and then things would come crashing down. So I was always trying to find new things and educate myself to try and get to where I wanted to be physically, but I just wasn't able to do that. I think there's so much information out there, it can get confusing. And I think there's even more information out there now with Instagram and social media. Before, I was just looking in women's health magazines or just watching TV, or even asking my mum what's the healthiest thing to eat, and even that wasn't right. So I think that I just kind of got to a point where I needed to put my energy to good use, because I was spending, I guess, a few hours in the gym a week. I was going there. I was probably staying on a couple of cardio machines and not really, taking it to that next level. And actually, it was Nim who introduced, Nim, sorry, my husband, who started to work with an online coach. And this is about a year or two before we got married. So he proposed, got engaged, and he thought, right, now it's time to really get into shape. He was also like myself. He had spent, lots of money on different trainers or different books, and he wasn't seeing the results. So he started working with an online fitness coach. And at first I really didn't understand it. How are you doing this when someone's, through email, with someone through email, you're not going to see a personal trainer. Why are you getting your weighing scales out to weigh your food? I didn't understand it. But then when I started to see the impact it was having on him physically, he was feeling healthier, he was having more energy, he was enjoying that health and fitness side of things, I was very intrigued. And I signed up to this health and fitness coach too. And, I was with him for about 3 or 4 years. And I actually managed, it didn't take me 3 or 4 years to get to my goals. It took me about 12 weeks to get to where I've wanted to for years, just through implementing healthier habits in my day, implementing the right nutrition, exercise, sleep, like we've mentioned. And I think I was just absolutely amazed at just educating myself a little bit more got me to where I've wanted to be. And I think the step that got me really going was where I saw that taking control of my health and fitness took me further than just a physical transformation. It really got me out of my comfort zone. It got me to take control of my decisions more, of what I wanted. It got me feeling more confident, which I had lacked for pretty much my whole life. So that was at the age of 25, 26, which is when I started that. And I'm now 32 and I don't regret it. And so going back to your question, which is what inspired me, I think that when I saw that a physical transformation, simple things that you can change in your day could get you feeling more confident and happier within yourself, I was ready to share that with other people. And that's kind of what started the process of online coaching.
Do you think that you weren't finding any fulfillment with what you were doing as a dentist? Did you feel that this was maybe a way to compensate for that?
Definitely. It kind of felt like a blessing in disguise. I think from the age of 23 to the age of about 30, I just kind of only knew dentistry. I knew that I had to do it 4 or 5 days a week. I knew that, I had to try and do better than my peers and try and go on more courses, but I wasn't enjoying it. But I was just almost forcing myself to do these extra courses because I thought, well, what else is there going to be of me if I don't push myself in this way? But looking back at it, at the time, I didn't really realize, but to know how fulfilled I am now makes me realize how unfulfilled I was before. And I, when I look back at it, I remember coming home from work, crying my eyes out to my mum, just feeling stressed, not wanting to go in, but then I would go in the next day. And I don't think I saw a way out. I just thought the only way was pushing myself to become a specialist, or, people will ask me, do you not want to own your own practice? And I'm like, oh, well, I don't really want to, but if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. So yeah, I wasn't getting that fulfillment. When the pandemic hit, dental practices in the UK closed for about 3 months. So there was no going into the practice. And so I felt a little bit lost. And that's when my coach at the time said, would you ever be interested in doing coaching or something like that? And I think that gave me the confidence to be like, oh, I think someone believes in me that I could do something different, and took it from there.
Interesting. Okay, so for what you do as an online coach, you have these tremendous social media accounts, by the way, and I will put those in the show notes of today's episode so people can check them out. You're posting a lot. You're posting a lot of advice about all sorts of different things in the health and wellness space. You're showing the progress that your clients have made. In order to do that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of confidence and belief in yourself and what you're doing. I'm sure you are because I know when I post things, there is a sense of doubt in your mind. There's like, oh, the kids from high school who follow me are going to think I'm such a loser and such a weirdo for doing this. So what gives you the confidence and the motivation and the inspiration to push past those doubts, so to be able to put yourself out there like that?
Honestly, I still haven't quite got there yet in terms of feeling fully confident, but I am definitely way more confident than I was when I first started. I remember when I first started, I would reread my posts about 10 times and ask my husband Nim and ask my mum and ask my friends and just get everyone's opinion, which then actually made me, a lot more confused. So I think that I never fully had the confidence, but like with anything, I think that I just had to start. Like, I really thought, like, if I don't do this, if I don't force myself into this space, take myself out of this comfort zone, I am never going to be able to progress. And let's say 5-10 years ago, I would never have dreamed of doing anything like this. But I think, and I've talked to you about this before, the path of my self-development, having a lot of reflection and introspection has really pushed me to take on challenges. Like even this podcast, this feels, I mentioned to you, it's quite nerve-wracking for me to do. I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But the fulfillment that you get after, the confidence that you get after, then drives me even more to do it again. And I think I've just got to a point where, like, you know what? I don't care what people think. It's taken me a long time to get there, and I still get that comparison syndrome, that imposter syndrome. But I'm just starting to care a lot less and starting to focus just on me and, my close-knit circle and those opinions that I do really care about.
It's really difficult to do that. I myself am battling that. A lot of people who want to put stuff out there, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or whatever the thing is, there's a lot of doubt, and there's so much doubt that it prevents them from doing the thing that they want to do. So major props to you for pushing past that and getting to the edge of your comfort zone, because that is where the growth happens, as both you and I know.
Thank you.
So there's a bunch of areas that you can talk about with health and wellness. I want to go back to those 3 pillars, and I want to first talk about the one that I think is most forgotten. That's sleep. We think that, hey, if I just work out hard and I get my greens in, that I'll be ripped, that I'll be jacked, that I'll have, that I'll be super productive and have all this energy. But I know, as I've just altered my own sleep schedule, because I have been brainwashed under this, American, and I think UK deals with this as well, where we're just so hardworking, and our entire lives, the entire American system is based on the economy and just participating in it, and therefore you work more than 40 hours a week, which is, more than you're supposed to. We push ourselves so much that we're so tired, and we, rely on fast food to give us a quick hit of energy, and we rely on caffeine to get us through the day. We're always so tired. We're always distracted because we're just not sleeping, because we push ourselves so much, because we think, oh, if I sleep 8 hours a day today, I am lazy. Someone else is taking, the food off my table, so to say, because I'm not, working or waking up at 6 a.m. and getting after it immediately. So sleep is very important. I personally just started sleeping 8 hours a night last week, and already notice a world of difference. My creativity is up. I'm coming up with all sorts of ideas for work and for personal things. And so it has reinvigorated me. And I can't believe I wasn't doing this all this time. I took great pride in sleep deprivation. That is something that we do. That's messed up. We take pride in depriving ourselves of sleep. So I kind of want to ask you, and I'll ask you this for food and exercise as well. What does a healthy relationship with sleep look like?
Yeah. So I definitely agree on that point that you mentioned, that, it's known that basically sleep deprivation or having 4 to 5 hours sleep, is looks cool, right? Like that's what you think. You see people on social media, oh, I've had 4 hours sleep, now I'm like working really hard. And like it makes someone else look like they're having a more productive life than yourself. So you asked me, what does it look like to have a healthy relationship with sleep, basically? And I think, like, you can read articles, and you know that you read, it's having a good 6 to 8 hours of sleep is really important a day, and like that's fine just to say as an overall, but everyone is slightly different. Sleep is very important to me, and now that I've been able to again work more on my sleep, I have seen the benefits. In terms of a healthy relationship with sleep, I guess the importance of that is, when I don't have good sleep, I am not my most best self the next day. So I've had about, like, this happened recently actually, and my husband Nim will vouch for me. Like, I probably had about 4 or 5 hours sleep 2 or 3 days in a row. I'm a grumpy person the next morning. I'm naggy. I'm not my best self. Anything, if I'm running late for work or something like that, I'm just more agitated. I'm just more agitated with things like that. And then I'll go to work feeling a little bit more grumpy. And then I'll just think, my day's not going so well. So I think that I just don't feel good within myself. The second thing is, if I haven't had a good sleep, I tend to want to reach for more comfort food the next day, less healthier food, because I'm not feeling so good already. So I want to reach for something that's going to feel good, some more carbs, and almost forget about what I've planned for my meals. Or I don't even have time. I don't have the energy to plan for healthier meals or anything like that. And then again, if I'm feeling tired, who wants to head to the gym? Who wants to go for a walk? I think that sleep is the foundation almost for the rest of your health journey. And that's why when I have clients who come to me and, they might have not been having a good week with food or with exercise, I always run it back and dig deeper to the basics. How was your sleep been the last few days? How was your stress levels? And more often than not, it's that we need to work on in order to get that food in order to get everything else right the next day. You're not going to be able to get back on it with your training or be in a good food routine if you're having 2 hours of sleep a day. So I think it's just, very, very important.
It feels like, I think there's all sorts of things that we try to do. We try to, and I'm sure you see this in this space as well. You see a bunch of people who offer fitness programs, get ripped in 12 days or you get your money back. We are always looking for like the quick fix. What is the quickest way I can lose weight? The quickest way I can gain muscle? And I think the easiest thing you can do to fix your health the fastest is sleep more. I mean, as I was telling you, it has unlocked so much for me. It is free. It is easy to do. Yeah. And so how do you think you can get higher quality sleep? I know there's all sorts of tips and trips, whether it's, managing the light that's in your room, managing your electronic use before bed, things of that nature.
Okay, so firstly, I would say look at your caffeine intake. So coffee, tea, even certain diet Coke or Coke have caffeine in. And I try and avoid having any caffeine past 1 o'clock in the afternoon because actually it can still stay in your system until you're sleeping. So I still have 1 or 2 coffees a day, but I would recommend just pushing, if you're having it a bit later, pushing it back to the morning. So first of all, just rechecking when you're having your coffees and not having it too late in the day. I would say, secondly, making sure that your room is of a good temperature. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. That can affect kind of your comfort of your sleep as well. And again, I think one of the biggest things is devices, your iPad, your iPhone, scrolling on TikTok, on Instagram. I think for many reasons that can have an impact on your sleep, not only because of the light, which can affect like the melatonin in your body, but actually if you're scrolling, you're looking at Instagram, you're thinking about something, it might even start playing on your mind just before you go to bed. So what I recommend, and I'm saying I recommend it because I'm guilty of not doing this myself, but trying to stay away from your devices around 45 minutes before bed. So what I've tried to do is leave my phone in the other room, actually buy an alarm clock rather than use the phone as my alarm, have a hot shower, because actually a hot shower gets your body temperature right before going bed. Having a hot shower actually cools your body to the right temperature before going to bed. And yeah, just almost having, doing some reading, doing some journaling, reflecting, planning for the day ahead, so that anything that's in your mind is out of your mind and you can relax before bed. So I'd say those are the main things that I try and focus on in terms of sleep quality.
All right, let's move on to food. What does a healthy relationship with food look like?
This is a big question, and I think a healthy relationship with food looks like no, not like not restricting yourself with certain food groups. So you hear of low carb, low fat, Atkins, juice diets, all these type of things where you are eliminating food out of your diet for a short period, because ultimately it is going to be a short period because it's not sustainable for the long term. You're eventually going to revert back to old habits. I think a healthy relationship with food is finding something that works for you, that is sustainable for the long term. So, for example, if you're wanting to lose weight, it's really important that you are within a calorie deficit. So you're basically burning more calories than you're consuming. But you can adopt a calorie deficit through many ways. You might prefer to eat more carbs and less fat. I might prefer to eat more fat and less carbs. Someone else might prefer to do intermittent fasting. Someone else actually might prefer to have breakfast. So your healthy relationship is just something where you're not feeling like something is restrictive, but where something feels like it's working for you in order to achieve your goals. And basically having a good balance of each nutrition component. So that's protein, carbs, fats, and a good range of vegetables as well.
Restricting is something I myself am very familiar with. I am only really now getting past that phase of my life, because I used to, whether I admitted it to myself or not, I think I knew deep down that I was binge eating. Maybe not binge. I don't know what the proper term would be. Basically, I was the 1 day a week cheat meal guy, where nachos, mac and cheese, a big bowl of chicken wings. Like, those are my go-to cheat meals. The rest of the week I would be absolutely clean, but I would have just like a massive bowl of nachos, with pulled pork and smothered in buffalo sauce or something, and would just eat it. And halfway through, I'm like, I hate myself. Mm-hmm. And afterward, I just physically feel ill because I've eaten so much. And then I work it off the next day. So I'm not doing things like that anymore. I'm instead now just kind of sprinkling in, 3 days a week, a big bowl of nachos. But okay, maybe on Tuesday, I have, some mac and cheese for lunch or something, just like a small helping. And then Thursday, I have a couple handfuls of my candied walnuts that I really like or whatever. And so it's kind of sprinkling in it more often through the weeks so that I don't feel like I'm depriving myself of the joy that I get from the foods that I like. So I'm working on that. Is that something that you see a lot? People depriving themselves of the things that they like because, it's bad?
Absolutely. And that's something that I also went through myself, that type of binge and restrict kind of cycle. So I would restrict myself in the week quite a bit. I would be, salads during the week, and then I give myself kind of the go ahead to have more alcohol at the weekends, eat loads of pizza. But then I found myself on a Sunday evening feeling really bad about myself and feeling guilty. And that's why when I work with my clients, I want to work with them in a way that you can incorporate all these types of foods. We've just got to plan for them a little bit. You've got to understand a little bit more about nutrition and how we spread that out throughout the week. And we can still kind of get to your goals that way. Otherwise, I would end up in a cycle of feeling like wanting to restrict myself, over-exercise, diet really hard on Monday, right. And then binge again, and just end up at square one.
Do you believe that there's good and bad foods?
That is, again, something that's always crops up. Always in the media, you have good and bad foods. And I would say there is no good or bad food. There is no healthy or unhealthy food. If you have a goal, whether it's losing weight, building muscle, maintaining your weight, you just want to be able to eat foods that fit a number of calories that you need to hit your goal, if you see what I mean. So, if I say to you that edamame beans, for example. That sounds like a superfood, a health food. You'd think, okay, if I eat loads of them every day, I'm good. That's a healthy food. It's a nutritious food. It's got your good minerals and vitamins. But if you had like 1,000 grams of edamame beans on top of all your other food, you're going to be tipping over the number of calories that you need to be able to maintain your weight or to lose weight. So actually, you're by eating all that food, you're going over the amount of food that you need to eat. So I'm not going to class as, pizza or a donut as bad food. They have less nutritional content, but you can still eat them if you're remaining within your calorie target or your calorie deficit for the day, if you see what I mean. Do you understand about calories? I can explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know you have your, if you're trying to lose weight, for example, you have your basal metabolic rate, which is just what your body naturally burns if you're just sitting still, just living and breathing. And then you just kind of need to run some calculations based, take that coupled with your activity level, your age, what your fitness goal is exactly. And then you just kind of come up with a number like, okay, this is how many calories I need to either build muscle or lose fat or whatever.
Yeah. For example, like in order for me to maintain my body weight, so if I wanted to stay the same weight every day, I know that I roughly need about 2,000 calories. If I wanted to start losing weight, I need to put myself in a calorie deficit. And for me, from experience, I know I need to be on about 1,600 calories. Now, however, I make up those calories with good or bad foods or just any foods is my choice. And what I do is I kind of have an 80-20 rule. So 80% of my calories will come from foods that we perceive healthy, so your lean meats and your veggies and your grains, your oats and things like that. And then 20% of my calories, I'll allow them to come from what's kind of perceived as bad food. So pizza or burgers or my favorite chocolate bar. So that's how I have my balance. So there's no good or bad food in terms of if you wanted to lose weight, but there's more nutritional food as such, if you see what I mean. And if you think about it, if you eat more nutritional food, you're probably going to just feel better in yourself, less bloated, less lethargic. And so, that's how I would talk about it.
At the end of the day, it's really just about calories in, calories out.
Yeah,
it's always been that way. People like to make it think that it's some bigger thing than that. It's really not.
Yeah.
Do you think it is? Because I used to do this when I first got educated on nutrition and all this stuff in college, what you guys would call university. I started using all the apps. I used MyFitnessPal. I was tracking everything. I mean, I am scanning every box, everything that I'm getting all the nutritional information about it. I'm doing all the calculations, and I did it for a while, and it showed me everything I was putting into my body. It showed me all the data and the stats to the point where I don't have to do that anymore because I just kind of know off the top of my head. I can look at something and say, yep, that's about X amount of calories. I know that's a good amount for me. That feels good for me. Do you think, though, and I know, this is stuff that you do with your clients. I'm sure you have all sorts of spreadsheets and calculations and whatnot. I know the goal of it is to be healthy, but do you think monitoring yourself so closely and tracking like that so obsessively could be taken to an unhealthy extreme?
It could be, and I'm not sure how that's I can't speak for everyone, but how I like to use calorie counting is actually something similar to what you said. You kind of used calorie counting and tracking for a short period of time. It allowed you to understand what's in your food, what you're putting in your body. And I think that I use calorie counting in MyFitnessPal as an educational tool for my clients for a certain period of time. And then over time, we can start to wean off it because you understand what 40 grams of oats might look like, or you're able to eat slightly more mindfully. But how can how can someone eat more intuitively or mindfully without having that initial understanding and education in the first place? So understanding calories, understanding how many calories is in your chicken or how many calories in your donut gives you that education of like, actually, I can incorporate into my diet and I can plan ahead for it. And then, later on down the line, you don't have to calorie count anymore. After doing it for so long, I say about 40% of the time, I still continue to calorie count. And maybe I do it a little bit more often if I have a very, very specific goal that I'm going to hit. So if I'm needing to specifically lose weight for a certain period of time, or I'm looking to gain muscle at a steady period. But generally, after learning about it, I don't feel the need to do it all the time, but I think it's a useful tool. But yeah, I think, again, you've got to be a bit careful from clients and their background. If they have any histories of that's when you want to be a bit more careful and take the time to understand things a bit more before you go into that. And maybe we just start with something a little bit more basic.
You mentioned intermittent fasting earlier. That's something I want to hit on really quickly. And from what I've gathered about it through the years, I think people are pretty split on it as to whether it's a healthy or unhealthy behavior. My understanding is you kind of you limit your eating to a certain window of time. So you might eat dinner at 7 p.m. and then not eat again until 8 a.m. the next day or something. I think 12 to 16 is kind of the common hour range. And so you restrict yourself to just eating your meals within a certain window of time. How do you feel about intermittent fasting as a healthy way of having an eating schedule?
Okay, so I think intermittent fasting is simply another strategy like low carb, like low fat diet to help you hit a calorie deficit. You are pushing your food and your calories within a shorter amount of time. It doesn't really matter what time you eat. That's not going to affect health or progress. If you find it easier to push your calories back later in the day and not eat till about 11 a.m. or 12 in the afternoon, that's fine. That's actually something that I naturally do. I prefer eating more food in the evening. When I've got home from work, when I'm watching a bit of TV, I like to have slightly more carby snack in the evening. And in the morning, I find that I can get on with my work, have a cup of coffee, have some water. That lasts me till about 11 o'clock. I feel I would then just be eating for the sake of it. So I think intermittent fasting, if it works for you, it's just simply another strategy that can help you hit your calorie deficit because you're pushing your calories to later.
What does a healthy relationship with exercise look like?
Healthy relationship with exercise. I think, again, just like with nutrition, something that feels sustainable for you. What feels sustainable for me might be different to a person who has 3 children, really busy working schedule. They still want to get in some exercise. You want to find something, that you enjoy. Don't do exercise that you don't enjoy. I used to do HIIT classes when I was a lot younger. I don't like HIIT. I don't really like doing much cardio. It's not necessary for you to do that to achieve certain goals. If you want to do it, then do it, but it's not necessary. So I say, first thing, find something that you can stick with, feel sustainable, and that you enjoy. And yeah, I would say that's the in terms of the main thing with exercise. And again, the second thing is, I guess, not overdoing it. So making sure that you're having appropriate rest. So if you're, for example, going into the gym 6-7 days a week, lifting really, really heavy weights, not allowing yourself to recover, that can actually work to your detriment. You can increase the risk of injury. You're not actually allowing your body to recover. And so it doesn't have the muscle doesn't actually have the time to repair and actually build and increase in size. So again, it's just making sure you're doing the right amount for you and that doesn't feel too strenuous on your week, I would say.
Okay, I want to get selfish here and ask you this. So I love exercise. I'm very versatile. I do a bunch of things. So I just did kickboxing today. I did yoga on Monday. I went for a run on Sunday. And then I go on long bike rides. I do some push-ups. and I, run on the beach. I do all sorts of things. And I like it. It feels sustainable. I enjoy it. I get a lot of fun from it. I do hit as well. I do not like lifting weights. I've never enjoyed lifting weights. Every time I go to the gym to lift weights, I'm like, oh, gosh, I just want to get this over with. It feels like a chore to me. And so over the past year, I really have not been lifting weights at all. And so I will look at myself in the mirror sometimes and be like, I'm pretty fit, but like I have toothpick arms. I'm so skinny. And I know that lifting weights is a healthy part of a well-balanced exercise regimen, but I just don't like it. So do you think I should force myself to lift weights even though I don't like it?
I think lifting weights for everyone, it has so many benefits, not only overall health benefits, but mentally as well. If we're not lifting weights, and for example, we're dieting, sometimes we can run the risk of losing muscle or not feeling like we're building muscle. So I guess having enough muscle in our body is just important from an overall health point of view. If you have a specific goal of actually, I do want to try and look a little bit bigger, I do want to build more muscle, then lifting weights is going to be so important for that. And it's making sure that you're doing that on a consistent basis, like 2 or 3 times a week, and actually progressing. So not just picking up the same weight in the gym, but something that we call progressive overload, which is where, you might be doing a bicep curl one week with 5 kilograms, but you want to be increasing the weight that you're using over time. You want to be adding more, increasing the stimulus on your muscle to build your muscle up. So I would say, if you don't enjoy it, like why don't you enjoy it? Like, what makes you not enjoy it? Is it that you don't know how to do the exercise? Is it that you've had a bad experience with it? Is that you find it uncomfortable? Like, maybe dive deeper into that.
A couple of things. I don't like the experience of going to the gym. Okay. I don't like what it's become. It's become a fashion contest. Everyone's videotaping themselves. I personally just don't like it. I don't like the environment. And I know, you can get your own weights and do home workouts and stuff if you want to. I personally just feel, and I know you sweat when you're lifting weights and stuff, but it's not I don't feel that when you're lifting weights, you're pushing yourself as much. It doesn't feel like as much of a mental challenge. Whereas during a HIIT workout where you want to give up every 5 seconds, you are constantly pushing yourself. I do not feel that way. I get way more endorphins and a feeling of accomplishment after doing something where I really, really have to push it as opposed to lifting weights.
Yeah, and I see what you mean. And I think if you're used to pushing yourself with that type of activity and you're enjoying that is fine. But you can push yourself so much with weights. And actually, the feeling that weightlifting gives me, I'm really pushing myself. Like you've got to be able to, by the time that you're on your last rep, by the time you're doing the last rep, you should not be able to be lifting the weight anymore. If your 9th or 10th rep looks as easy as your 1st or 2nd rep, you're not going hard enough. You need to push yourself harder, whether it is doing more repetitions or whether it is lifting that weight. If you're not feeling that, then we're not going hard enough, is what I would say. And then, maybe next time just try that, push yourself even further than what you can normally do. And sometimes, again, that's helpful, if you have a coach or a personal trainer. But whatever you're doing within your mind when you're running to push yourself that extra half mile or whatever you need to do, push yourself for that extra 3 or 4 reps. Try and see if you've got more in you and see how that goes for next time.
So on those last reps where you're, as you just laid out, you're struggling to get them, the importance of form. Form is obviously very important. So when you notice your form starting to go, what should you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Form is number one. You want to ensure that form is the priority. So you want to be able to be getting to a point of pushing yourself at the last rep, but maintaining good form. And if you're not maintaining good form, then, you would need to cut back a little bit or drop the weight. So yes, it is pushing yourself, but ensuring that you're having good form.
So there's all sorts of guidelines that come out all over the world every year. I feel like the studies are always changing. I read a different study every week about, hey, the required number of minutes throughout the week that are, that's a good measure for exercise. What do you think in terms of timing and total time spent exercising is a good number?
Again, it depends on your background, your training background. Again, even how much time you have in the week. But if you're a beginner or you haven't been training with weights for too long, if you can commit to about 2 days a week, at least 45 minutes, and be consistent with that, then you're on a good path. And then if you feel that you can incorporate that third day, that's fine. I tend to do 3 or 4 days a week. You've got people who want to, who are muscle builders, bodybuilders, sorry, or really into wanting to, go in to improve their power and their strength. They might do 6 days a week, but as a minimum, 2 to 3 days for about 45 minutes, making sure you're hitting all the main muscle groups throughout the week. That is definitely sufficient. It's making sure that those 45 minutes count. So it's not going in and, like I said, not pushing yourself on each set. It's making sure that your form is good, that you're progressing with your weight, and you're making those 45 minutes count. You might not be sweating like you have after running, but you should feel that intensity within your muscles, or you might even feel some muscle soreness the next day. So it's going to feel like a different type of workout and a different type of feeling. I rarely sweat when I'm doing strength training. I don't think sweating is necessarily a measure of how hard you're working, if you see what I mean.
I want to ask you about something that you told me recently. You said that every Saturday, you and your amazing husband, Nim, get together, you have coffee, and you kind of do a little check-in with each other, a progress. You guys measure how you've been doing over the last week. How long you guys been doing that? Why did you decide to do that? What do you get out of doing that?
Yeah, so I think we started doing that midway through pandemic. I think for everyone, it caused a lot of stress. We were both at home, all in each other's space. We were living in a smaller flat at the time. And I think that, this led to naturally more arguments or getting on each other's nerves. And one of our friends actually mentioned to us that they do like a weekly check-in with one another. And so we've been doing it for the last year and a half. And I think it's amazing because it feels like a safe space to be able to share what's bothered you for the week, or even, pat your partner on the back. Thank you for washing the dishes, because you might not be able to do that, forget to do that in the week. So it's a safe space to share concerns, because I think sometimes if you're having an argument and you're kind of voicing your concerns within an argument, the tone doesn't necessarily come out in the way that you want to, and that can kind of just, add fuel to fire, I would say. So I think that it's our time of the week to share our concerns, share some positives, and basically see how we can support each other for the week ahead. So, Nim has a very crazy work schedule. Sometimes he'll be, traveling 2 or 3 hours away. Sometimes he'll be at home. Sometimes he's got big projects or deadlines. And if I ask him, how is your week going to be next week? It means that I have a better understanding on how to support him for that week. So if, for example, he might have not been able to do those dishes, I know I've mentioned dishes a few times, but I'm just
Nim, do those dishes, Nim.
Yeah. If, for example, if I know that on the Wednesday he's out for like 12 hours and the dishes aren't done, I'm gonna be okay with that. Like, he's had a long day and I'm happy to do that for him. So it's worked so well for us. And I think at the beginning, it was hard to stay consistent with it. Like with any new habit, like you have to get into the habit and force yourself to do it. But once you see the benefit, and once we're able to communicate with each other better, understand one another better, argue less, I think that, now it is definitely our, half an hour routine on a Saturday. We have a coffee, we sit at home. Sometimes we go to a cafe. It's our quality time together. And so I really recommend it.
I want to ask you about this lastly. Every time I go to Europe, I am amazed by the difference in food quantity and quality between US and UK and just Europe in general. I find that the food over there is just so much inherently better for you. You look at the ingredients, everything is more natural. it's way more common to see things locally sourced and fresh over there as opposed to here where everything is kind of mass produced and just made to make profits, essentially. What do you see as the biggest kind of differences in food when you've been to the U.S.? I know you've been here a couple times. You just went on some crazy Vegas, California road trip. What do you see as the big differences in terms of the way we eat?
It's a little bit hard to say in terms of what are the major differences, because I guess I've only eaten out in restaurants. I haven't gone to a supermarket and looked for foods myself and noticed, oh, you've got vegan options, you've got higher protein options, you've got more nutritional options. So, here in the UK, we definitely have a wide variety for that, gluten-free as well. So we've got that variety, and we're seeing more of that in restaurants as well. I guess, I can't really say in terms of what's in your supermarkets. But I guess one thing I could say is you definitely have really big portions, very big portions. We ended up literally breakfasts. What was there? There was an egg. It wasn't egg slut. It was something else in Vegas. But we went for a big giant breakfast. But yeah, the portions food is very tasty, but portions are massive. I didn't quite notice too many healthier options on the menu, but maybe at the time I was just going for the comfort food and enjoying my time there.
It's hard to come by the healthy options in Vegas. They don't really cater to that crowd there.
Yeah.
Sonayna, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an awesome, engaging, informative, educational conversation that I know a bunch of my listeners will enjoy. So thank you for being here. Enjoy the UFC fights this weekend. I know you're a big UFC fan now, so a British fighter is fighting. So have fun watching that. Tell them I say hi, and good luck with everything you got going on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.